Welcome back, everyone, to the Howl Podcast, where we feature guests from various backgrounds with captivating stories to tell. And our goal is to bring people together by sharing diverse perspectives and experiences, while also empowering and amplifying underrepresented voices to inspire positive change in the world. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Howling Gale Entertainment. And please give us a rating on Spotify at the Howl Podcast. And if you're listening to this episode at the Howl Podcast on Spotify, please pause it and give us a rating right now. That would mean so much to us. And I'm your host today, Juan Raimundo Ramos. And our next guest for today is Courtney Birk and Ashleigh Coffelt, also known as CA in LA, who are best friends, award-winning independent filmmakers, musicians, variety live streamers on Twitch and Kick, who are based in Los Angeles. And we're excited to hear and learn more about Courtney and Ashleigh's journey in film, music, as well as their streaming career as CA in LA. So without further ado, please welcome Courtney Birk and Ashleigh Coffelt, CA in LA. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. It is always so strange to hear people speak. And then we're like, oh, I guess we have done all of those things. Oh, wow.
Wow, we should probably pump the brakes on at least one of those.
Yes, I remember when you get rated or stuff like that, you always, remind me, like all the stuff you guys do. Wow, you guys do so many things. You don't just do film, you do music, you do everything, basically. Like, that's amazingly impressive. And I remember meeting you guys last year in the 2022 San Diego Filipino Film Festival. And that was such an amazing festival to go to. But when I saw you guys do the Q&A and I heard you speak about, we're actually live streamers on Twitch, that just sparked something in me. And I was like, I gotta introduce myself to these amazing people. And that was such an amazing time. And this year actually also went to the 2023 San Diego Filipino Film Festival for your film Remittance. And I was there to support that, and gotta say, amazing, talented people and amazing filmmakers and musicians as well. So yeah, I'm very excited for this episode. And first and foremost, we would like our viewers to learn more about you as well as your journey. So I guess let's start with Courtney here and kind of like introduce yourself and also your background too.
Sure. This question is always difficult for me because I very much forget a lot of my background when it comes to filmmaking. But hello, I am Courtney. It's nice to meet you. And I've been acting since forever, which has always been a part of my story. The part that I conveniently leave out, I guess, or I've forgotten about, is that I've also been making movies since I was very, very small. That was how my friends and I hung out, is we made movies, and we held up a huge camera to a PowerPoint that we made, and it was like filming a computer. It was insane, but it was amazing. And I got my background in film, I would say, then, and learning how to live edit via rewinding VHS tape and hoping to God you stopped it at the right point, which you never did. And as I've been doing that, and I have also been singing since I could talk. So I've been very involved in the arts. I also paint and draw, do all of these things. So I knew very young that I was going to be an artist, whatever that meant. It was going to be something. It was not going to be anything academic, and it had to be in the arts. So I, by the time I got to high school, all of my electives, I had to take 2 required classes. The rest of them was choir, theater, photography, fine art. It was literally all of them. And I had been acting in theater, and I didn't really get back into film, I guess, because my brain just didn't connect those dots until I met Ashleigh. And then we started making films together and decided to, this is a very cliff noted version, but decided to move out here, and now we're streaming, which is another added thing, which kind of weirdly combines all of those things. So I guess that's it.
You're so
amazing,
cool.
Amazing actress. Gotta say, Courtney, I've seen like a lot of the films that you've made with Ashleigh here, and wow, what a talented person.
Thank you.
Yes, let's switch over to Ashleigh here. Tell us your origin story.
My origin story, my villain story now. So I have always been my family like documentary person. And it didn't dawn on me until recently that like that's kind of been my role, and that really got me understanding what it meant to have moments and like what was really captivating. And yeah, I've been taking photos almost my entire life, and I got my first video camera when I was 10, and I've been so invested in reading and going to the library. And one of the first books that I routinely checked out all the time was the screenwriting book. And I studied it so much of my like preteen years into my early teen years, and shot like little documentaries of trips and stuff that I went on. But it wasn't until I was in college getting ready to graduate with my psychology and business degree that I was like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this. I was in a business writing class, and my professor, Jack Carneal, shout out to you. Thank you so much. He was like, all right, there's no exams or anything in this class. We're going to just have you apply your dream job. We're going to get you set. We're going to give you all of the assets that you need. And I was like, week 2, I don't want to do this. And I already applied for graduation. And then he was like, okay, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to pick music for movies. He's like, okay, pick music for movies. And I was like, but I can't because my parents. And he was like, your parents aren't the ones like living your life, like do it. And he was like the first person to be like, just do it. And so I started down the audio track, and my very first film semester, one of my professors worked at a nonprofit called Creative Alliance in Baltimore. And I ended up just having so many balls at that point. And I started my like film journey like formally there, and got really invested in the Maryland Film Festival, and was surrounded by indie filmmakers, a lot of women indie directors who, when I was interviewing them, I was just like, what advice do you have for like me getting started? And they're like, you make film, just do it. And so I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to make movies. I was at Ruby Tuesday. I was running my mouth, and thank goodness Courtney heard me, and we just took off. Like just like that. We just started hanging out all the time, making movies, learning what that process looked like, finding our group of collaborators in Maryland, just building our skill set of like one location, 2 actors, like what's the most creative story that we can tell, and started doing a lot of 48-hour film festivals to really finesse our skills and like dedicate time to our practice. And now we're 150 films deep, live in Los Angeles, stream on Twitch, get to pay for our films through music and through art. And we've been able to connect with audiences around the world through Twitch. And it's been really, really amazing.
And for a while there, this is a part that doesn't come up too much because I think we both forget. We forget lots of things. But I wasn't actually trying. Like when I met Ashleigh, I wasn't like full-fledged in film. I was trying to figure out what kind of degree I was going to have. And I was like, all right, well, it's going to be photography. I'm going to do wedding photography. And Ashleigh just would shake her head, and she's like, it's not. You're going to make movies with me. And I was like, I hear you, but that's just like a whole other ball game. I'm just not sure. And she said, okay, well, okay. And then she would just bring it up every now and again. And then eventually I was like, I think I'm going to, as if it were my own idea. I think I'm going to make movies. She was like, oh, well, thank God. Welcome aboard. I've been waiting. And it's so crazy to think about it that way, because that was such a defining moment, which led to many other conversations of splitting duties and figuring out all aspects of filmmaking that I was not familiar with. I guess legitimately coming from just trying things as a kid. But yeah, so thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm actually curious, like how everything began, like how both of you met. Were both of you from Maryland, or?
Yeah, we met at a Ruby Tuesday. I was managing, Court was serving, and it was a Saturday night shift. I had managed in the morning, and I was serving tables at night, and I had just resigned myself. I was watching like South by Southwest interviews with Mark Duplass and like Joseph Gordon-Levitt and like the Hit Record series. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to challenge myself next year that I'm going to make 13 films in 2013. And I just held myself accountable by saying it everywhere I went. And she just happened to overhear it. And I was working on a script like after work, because that's when I was in school full time, and then I worked full time as well. So my only time to write would be like in the wee hours of the morning. So I was working on my script, and then my Facebook messenger goes off, and she was like, "Hey, put me in one of your movies." And I was like, "Okay!" Exclamation point. this is wild. Okay, yeah. And then we shot our first film together so soon after that, like a week and a half, 2 weeks later. And then we premiered it a month later. Oh, wow. That timeline's wild. Why did we do? That's pretty much that's exactly how we are now. We're like,
absolutely.
let's just do it.
And when you sent, or when I sent that, on the surface, it looks very brash and very forward. But while she's typing away, the image of what it was of me was like, okay, I'm just gonna message. I'm just gonna say like, okay, well, I'll say like, hello, how are you? Or no, just get to the point, because like, that's the whole reason you're sending that. Just like say what you're gonna say. And that's what it was. And it just came out as it did. But I'm so glad that just, okay, I'll send you a script when I'm done. And I read it. It was like, this is, there's something here. We are doing this. And I'm so glad from the very beginning, you're always telling really heavy hitting stories. So,
yeah. We weren't shying away from any. Our very first film that we worked on together was about, spoiler alert, but we've talked about reshooting it, but I just don't know it anymore. But it was called Always Something There to Remind Me. And it's about this girl who, in a drunk driving accident, killed her sister, and then like is haunted by that, and is like medicating and like a zombie of herself, and then another one of their friends in their friend group is trying to snap her out of it, but you keep seeing her sister, and then you realize, she killed her sister, and this is a ghost. Oh wow. And then it goes to that moment. But like, it was such an intense first film for us to do in 2 weekends, and Courtney had a fever on the second day of filming, and oh my gosh, we were filming it on Saturdays, and yeah, it was a mess. But
it was the inner monologue of like, I know you're sick right now, but don't you dare mess this up for me.
Man, it was such an adventure, and it's horrible, but I'm really glad that we had that. And then the following year I was like, okay, let's move on to the next concept. And she was like, we should do a feature. And I was like, I'm not ready to do a feature. She's like, we're doing a feature. And so then on weekends from like April until like July, we would get a group of people together every weekend. We would work all day at Ruby Tuesday on Saturday, and then I would write the script that we were filming on Sunday. We had the locations and we had some of the actors, and then I would give it to them by like 2 or 3 in the morning on Sunday night or Sunday morning, and then we would shoot. We would start filming at like 7, 8, 9 a.m. in the morning, and Courtney would be up like straightening her hair and like memorizing lines, and we would shoot like 4 to 5 scenes, and we did this for months. And it was a mess. In our defense, we did have the bones of the script. We had the beats of it. There were just a couple places where we didn't have scenes, but we spent a lot of time mostly just venting about, we both had recently gotten out of very long-term relationships. And so the script was an ode to that. So a lot of the time before Ashleigh wrote the script was just us venting and how to put a close to those. Yeah. And I got my first tattoo in that time period. And then like 2 weeks later, we got our first matching tattoo, and everyone hated us. I mean, that's been like a situation that we've dealt with, that I think a lot of people would crumble under that, because it's very hard to find someone that you gel with. But I think it's even harder when you find a creative collaborator and you're friends with them, and then everyone in your life and in the other person's life is like, you guys are really horrible influences. But I'm really glad that we stuck together and like stayed strong through all of that, because we faced a lot of adversity, and it's great now that a lot of people are like, oh, well, I was just being protective over you. And it's like, we have pumped out work. We've done a lot of work on ourselves, and a lot of our films and music and art have healed us in ways that those very people hurt us. So I'm just really thankful for you and you sticking by all of that. Yeah, me too. I think the difference, though, also, I'm so sorry, Juan. Here we go. I think
it's fine. Totally fine.
We're going to stop talking.
I think the difference in that is, while we were bad influences in whatever respective area, we gave each other the opportunity to experience that, but we knew that there was someone there to catch. Yeah. It wasn't like, excuse me, you had someone who's a bad influence on you and let you just self-destruct and fly away, and they're not going to stick around. It's like, we're giving each other that room to explore all the things we didn't get over, the anger, the pain, and all of the mistakes that we'd previously made, and know that it is a safe place, in that if one of us is like, hey, I'm not really into this anymore, I think we need to grow, there is room for that too. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people miss that. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah. And looks like you guys have gone through so much together over the years. And I actually do want to talk about your films. But before I do, I want to ask about your transition from, I guess, Maryland to Los Angeles. Like, what sparked your idea on moving to LA to pursue whatever you're pursuing?
I think you need to start that first.
I took a trip with one of my friends to Los Angeles in 2009, and it was a week that really was transformative. It was the first time that I had really gone somewhere far. It was the furthest trip I had ever taken with a friend. And I learned so much about myself, and I just fell in love with Los Angeles, and always had this thing in the back of my mind that wherever I lived, I was going to be surrounded by palm trees. And like, as soon as I landed in LA, I was like, this is it. I'll be back here one day. And so I had brought up to Courtney one night in 2013, I really want to move to Los Angeles. And she was like, all right, cool. When are we going? And so in 2014, we moved to Long Beach for like 3 months, and we drove across the country. It was this amazing, beautiful trip. And we were like, okay, we're going to come back here one day. And we knew that we needed to make a feature film. So in 2016, we went to Sundance and Cannes. We had films there, and we were just talking to a lot of investors, a lot of producers, and they were like, for sure, you need to make a feature film before you move out there. So we filmed our feature film and worked so hard from like May until October. And because of everything, the way that it worked out, we had to travel to Los Angeles. Courtney and I flew here with our sound mixer, and we stayed in Chris Zash's house. Thank you, Chris. He's one of the leads in that film. And he, like him and his very kind wife, Emma, allowed us to record ADR for the actors. And they lived in a very prime, like Hollywood location. And so we just walked to the store and we were like, oh my gosh, I think that we can like live in LA, not in Long Beach. And so immediately on that trip, we were only in town for like 4 days. And I immediately got on these like sublet groups for Facebook. I don't even know if they exist anymore, but we found the place that we're in right now on that trip. And we were supposed to move out in December, but a bunch of stuff happened, and we were like, all right, January 2017, we're setting the date. There's no going back. And we literally just packed up our stuff. We just watched a minimalism documentary. So we drove across the country with hardly anything, made it here in 4 days, and didn't have a job, really didn't have savings, very, very responsible on our end. And yeah, we've lived in the same place since the beginning, and our roommate was really, really supportive and was in film school at the time. And he introduced us to like so much more equipment than we ever would have had without him. But that was like the surefire, like we belong here. And it was awesome to just like find the tribe of people that were like, yeah, I'm down to shoot something at 3 a.m. And we did not have that environment or that group of collaborators in Maryland the way that we had them here.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for those people saying you need to make a feature before you move out. One, it's a lie. Please don't do that. As soon as you make one feature, you are nixed from a lot of opportunities. So don't recommend doing that. But I'm so thankful that they did say that, because that was the only reason why we ended up flying to LA, doing ADR. We may have found our way another way. I'm not sure. We'll never know. And I don't need to, because that was such a driving force of getting us to move to Los Angeles of all places. Yeah. So Ashleigh summed that up very well. And again, it was me being like, let's go. Why don't we go? But yeah, I also knew that I needed to get out of Maryland. And if we were doing film, this was the place to do it.
So. Absolutely. And ever since then, you've made, like you said, over 100 films. When, I remember being a filmmaker, just creating one is actually super hard from script to screen, right? But you guys have made so many films, and you've shown it on Twitch. You've shown it on various film festivals across the United States as well. Tell us about your approach to storytelling and like what kind of stories you want to tell through your films. I know that Ashleigh is a very talented director, DP, and also Courtney, amazing actress, and also does colorist from time to time, and also AC, right? So yeah, tell us kind of like your team in Miss Ash Productions. Like, what's your approach to telling the stories you want to tell through film? It's
really come full circle. I saw a quote from someone about a year and a half, 2 years ago that said, for anyone that's looking to understand more about themselves, a writer's whole life and like their secrets and their therapy and everything is in their films. And all of the themes that they identify are like, it's like their films are their diary. And I was like, I started going through our body of work, and I don't know, it wasn't until like 2 years ago when I sat down and was like, what are the stories? What are the themes that we have explored in our work? Because we have such a body of work, and you're like, we started making a lot darker films when we moved out here because it was the first time that we were really experiencing life. We often talk about, we grew up with a very Disney Channel, like Mary-Kate and Ashley view of the world, when actually it was like Taken. And so I think that our approach went from, we were exploring and ruminating really deep concepts and themes of power and identity, and a lot of that to do with relationships and that struggle. And when we started refining it down and really, really saying, okay, what are we saying here? It started being like, okay, we're going to work backwards and know exactly what our message is, and then be able to like break down, because we have time now. That's like the crucial difference. Before it was like, we just want to film something. So what's a story that still is going to resonate, that's going to have a strong message, but we can shoot this in 2 days, 1 day, minimal cast, minimal crew, minimal locations, minimal budget. Now we're at a point where we can be like, okay, we still want to explore a power dynamic situation and an identity, but now we have more access to resources like lighting and production design and costume. And so now our approach is still exploring those concepts, but going even more in depth and being more intentional with it. And our approach is, when we're finding collaborators, I would much rather work with someone that is very enthusiastic and is a friend and communicates well and has a good attitude, as opposed to someone that's really hard to work with, has a decorated resume, and is really hard to work with, you know? But having a very collaborative, forward relationship, that there's no ego, that it is, we are all bringing our respective toolkit in our respective fields that we are all individually expert in to the table, and we're going to fight really hard for our vision for the film, for the story, not because it's mine. And taking everything with that approach and treating everyone with kindness, respect, dignity, and communicating what the needs of the project are, and valuing everyone's mental health above and beyond the fact that we're making a film, is now our approach, because we decimated ourselves in the past, being very unhealthy to ourselves and our brains and our bodies, to just tell a story. And now that we're getting older and we're starting to understand that, I don't know that there is breaking into the industry anymore. I don't know if a lot of the struggles that we've gone through are going to pay off. We're now just telling stories that we're really passionate about with people that we really love.
It is called one of our pitfalls when we have a very small crew, but much like what Ashleigh was saying, I mean, we didn't have those people in Maryland. We didn't have someone who could always run audio or what have you. It was our friend showing up and saying, I don't really know, but let's make it work. So we knew that when it came to a learning curve, the people that they were listening to was Ashleigh and I. So in order to be able to express the vision forward, we had to know what we were talking about in whatever area. So we did learn to do everything, and that's how that came about. But now moving out here, exactly what Ashleigh was saying, we want to work with people who are passionate, but not only that, they're not looking to us for us to tell them what to do. They know about lighting, they know about camera, they know about all these things, but they also know about a lot of other things. So therefore, that's less bodies on set. It's people who are like, I'm really passionate about this, but you know what? I want to learn this. So, and you know more about that. So let's talk about this. Mm-hmm. So everyone is learning through every facet of the filmmaking process, which I think lends itself to a more exploratory set and story. Because no one's like, well, it has to be this way. It's got to be this. It's much like when you're painting or writing a song. Is if you get too bogged down by what it has to be, you're missing the opportunity to create. Mm-hmm. And that's why we really love small crews, and everyone is really in it for the passion of it. And then Ashleigh and I can also be respective and respectful to people's creative process, and say, like, our costume designer, one of our costume designers, Claire, bless her. I don't know anything about costume, but she knows how to break down a script and bring costumes into the mix. And if like she was willing to collaborate and talk about it in that way and know that we were also learning instead of saying, I know what I'm doing, you guys don't, so just listen. It was everybody was learning, which is the biggest thing for us, as well as Ashleigh and I deciding to tell more in-depth stories. And I have a lot less trust with a lot more people.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, absolutely. Tell us some of the projects that maybe made you grow a lot as a filmmaker. I know that you just won Best Experimental Film for First You and I, right? At the, 2023 Austin Under the Stars Film Festival, right?
Good, yeah.
Congratulations. So yeah, tell us some of the projects that I would say, or that you would consider something that made you grow so much as a filmmaker.
I think that one, for many reasons, but I'm going to touch on one part. Ashleigh and I refused to set foot on set until we had a concept we were happy with. It wasn't, let's just make something, let's do it. We were filming a couple hours later. Ashleigh and I were up all night long, pacing about the room.
It was a 48-hour film festival project, so.
Yeah, and we were we had spent, from 6 p.m., we had been ruminating about different ideas, and none of them sat. And Ashleigh and I were upstairs I'm not passionate about it. I don't like it. You don't like it either, right? No. Okay. And we stayed up all night. We were not about to let a project go off until we had something that we loved. And then by the time we had that, it started snowballing. But that was really important because every film now has stakes to it. This film more than the rest of them. So that was a big learning thing, is to trust ourselves and know that we can come up with something that we both are happy with. We just need to give ourselves the patience and the time to do it. We didn't have the time to do it, but we decided to take that patience and really run with it. So I learned a lot from that.
I would say a film that I learned a lot was one of our very first short films. It's called Just Fine. And this kind of established, we should find a name for this, but it's, we do. We have this really awesome thing that happens where neither of us communicate, but I'm behind camera and she's acting and I'm just capturing these moments, and it's a go with me here, okay, type thing. And we really started to see it start there. And we had been filming just that feature film that I had mentioned before that didn't go anywhere and didn't ultimately do anything, but it was a really good learning process for us and set a lot of the foundations of who we would come to be. But Just Fine was just us on our own, and we crafted this very slice of life narrative type thing that I think that we've gone back to and recreated that in different capacities. But it really was the spark of something of, there's something to this style of editing. There's something to this style of cinematography. There's something to this color grade. We need to explore this more. And that was a theme that we picked back up in 2015. And I think we kind of did one of those type of films every year. And it's really cool to just be so everything started with that film of us just saying, let's throw everything out the window. Let's just figure something out. Let's do something fresh to us. And yeah.
The go with me here is definitely keep us grounded when sets are insane, and they always are. We just make sure to take a moment and say, remember that we're doing what we love, for one, but also when we do have those scenes that are very much I need you to trust me and I need to trust you, it is incredibly grounding, because those are always the best scenes.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. And I would say every film has there's something to learn from every film you make. It doesn't matter how long or short it is, right? Whether it's lighting, camera, editing, colorist, right? So many things to learn. And I want to go through so many things about that topic, but we're actually at the halfway point. So I'm going to move on to the next topic, which is your involvement with Filipino films. I don't know if I've ever told you before about this podcast, is a lot of our audiences are Filipinos and are Filipino based. So talk about your involvement in making Filipino films. I know that you had a couple films in the San Diego Filipino Film Festival for a few years now. I guess, Ashleigh, let's have you start with this question, is talk about the involvement and what sparked your interest in making these Filipino stories.
I'm going to just start off the bat and say I don't feel like I'm the person to tell Filipino stories because my experience as a Filam is completely different than a lot of other Filam stories. And it's been frustrating that I have felt like, especially living in Los Angeles, that because I'm Filipino, it's not enough that I have Filipino actors or crew. There was a lot of pressure on me that I had to tell a Filipino story. And so I just started exploring a lot of the stories that I had heard from friends in college, because I was an active part of a Filipino group in college. But it's such a catch-22 situation for me because I'll do so much research and I'll run the script through a lot of friends that are Filipino and born in the Philippines, born here. Both their parents still speak Tagalog to them. They know Tagalog, but also just like run the gamut. So the storytelling style with first impressions and remittance is kind of presenting not a uniquely Filipino concept, but in the case of First Impressions, it was having a dowry payment for a visa. And that's a very common thing that I had found with a lot of my friends on the East Coast, that a lot of their families had saved up money for their spouse as a down payment, as it was referred to in the film, because that's always how their parents referred to it as. So that's kind of how I wanted to explore First Impressions, with a little bit of humor, but also at the end of the day, it's not making a mockery of the culture by doing too many of the like stereotypical things, because I feel like there's a time and place for that, and that's not my lane to tell that story. And then in Remittance, we made that specifically for the HBO competition, and it was to tell a Filipino-centric story, which was about remittance. And yeah, it's always such an interesting situation and topic to make Filipino-centric films, because I get told that I didn't do it right and that it should be told through a different lens and blah, blah, blah. But while at the same time, I feel a lot of pressure from Filipinos, because I am Filipino, to tell Filipino stories. So that's definitely been something that I've deeply struggled with, because I've never really received a lot of acceptance or support or uplifting from the Filam or Filipino communities, because I'm always not enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm not employing enough. I'm not telling enough Filipino stories, and I haven't done enough with my career. But I don't feel like I'm at a point in my career that I can really put resources into creating and telling stories that have not been of my experience. And it has been incredibly challenging to balance that line of injecting myself into these stories while also uplifting and supporting Filam stories that are not of mine, if that makes sense. Because, we're all encouraged to tell a story that relates to us. And I don't want to be that person, because it happens every Filipino film I tell, that it's like, well, that actually was inaccurate. And it's like, well, that's your experience, but that hasn't been my experience, and it hasn't been this person's experience. And I feel like the dysphoria that we are in as Filams is really about to blow up on the scale of indie filmmakers, because we're now seeing an uptick in Filam stories, but a lot of them have so many similarities that it's like there's a movement that I feel we're all kind of being like, okay, well, what's the next way to elevate us? We know the basics and we've introduced people to our culture, but now let's go a little bit more in depth as what it means to struggle with identity and with legacy and with culture, instead of almost making a mockery of our culture at the expense of Philippine people like comedy and to have uplifting stories, but also explore who we are as individuals struggling with that, and the Filam lane of struggling with who we are when we don't feel connected to our culture because we haven't had that bridge from our parents or our grandparents.
Going back to what you said a little bit too, Legacy is a perfect example of that. It's all Filipinos on screen, but it's not an inherently Filipino story. It's a story that a lot of people can relate to, and it has been a big problem that Ashleigh didn't tell an inherently Filipino story. It's like, but isn't that exciting that we're just we're just showing Filipinos who experience all sorts of emotions. Filipinos are not pigeonholed to just a Filipino experience. And that's, I don't think that that's the end game, or that's the point, is to crush that. It should be something that's uplifted, that we are all human beings. We all deal with family problems and relationship problems, and legacy is just, it's one that a lot of people can relate to.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Miss Ash Productions, which is your production company. Where did it start? Or I guess when did you think of the name? And also, like, since the strikes are over, where do you see it moving forward, right? Like, how many films are you going to make? Because I know that you mentioned that you made over 100 films, which is a lot of films that you've made for, like, what, 6, 7, 8 years or so. But I remember you mentioned in your bio or something that you plan to make a couple of films a year as opposed to making a lot. So where do you see Miss Ash Productions moving forward?
That's a great question. The production company started in Baltimore because a lot of the filmmakers were like, you need to make a production company so that people get to know you and your company's work. And then you can also come on and produce. And it's just better visibility to have a production company. So get that started, figure out the name, figure out your branding, and start cataloging all of your films under that. So that's kind of how that started. The name origin is I'm the eldest of 4, and my dad, when I was a kid, used to take me to theaters. And when we would go on our dad and me dates, when we were at the theater, he would always be like, "Come on, Miss Ash." So I was like, "Yeah, that's great." And my dad is who taught me and put me in front of a camera and advocated for me to have a camera. So I was like, this is perfect. So Miss Ash Productions, name origin. And as far as where I see us going, it really is telling stories that elevates and amplify marginalized creators and women. And we really are passionate about telling nuanced stories. We really love exploring the absurdity and surrealism. We are really getting into philosophical terms now. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once really changed our brain space of what is possible in the creation and the melding of a concept. So we are taking a step back from producing and creating as many films so that we can really, really focus on heavy hitting films that we're able to pour way more resources into it. And when we say that we're going to film, we're able to pull favors for big projects instead of the smaller ones. But definitely venturing into more of a dark comedy, A24, psychological horror, while also exploring humanity and maybe the demise of humanity at the hands of technology. Very Black Mirror focused, but yeah, a lot of films that are talking about power dynamics and struggle and identity and who holds the power in situations, and basing it off so many of the situations in our own life.
Also exploring power dynamics between women, and talking about the pressure that society puts on women to have us constantly at each other. What's interesting and really difficult about that is the second you show 2 women on opposing sides, you're like, we're supposed to be uplifting each other. We cannot be showing women like this. Much like if you were to tell real stories with real characters, people are like, you cannot be portrayed like that. You cannot make that person do that. We had a lot of issues with our feature film in that way. All of the characters in the feature film were insanely flawed. Half of them were of color, and it didn't matter where you put them, it was going to look bad. So we have dealt with that. And now coming in with women, we are all coming at it from completely different sides, and valid sides at that. So it's, how do you portray the combative nature that women have in the way that society is right now without it looking like, oh, these are just women fighting each other and we're supposed to be uplifting, while giving merit to each individual person's experience. We are really trying to figure out how to do that right now. So that's another one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in terms of making films, I remember Courtney and Ashleigh had a conversation on their stream about this, is their involvement in making it. I know that Courtney, amazing actress, but she's also involved in being behind the camera, doing the AC, doing the camera work, and etc. So I guess I'll start off with Courtney. Where do you lean yourself towards? Because I know that you're an amazing actress and you've done so many films with Ashleigh. Do you prefer being behind the camera, in front of the camera, or so on?
Oh, I never know how to answer that. Ash is like, go on. I never know how to answer that because I have equally fallen in love with production side, not just being on set, but post-production as well. We have our workflow of I'll do rough cut depending on the project and how much time we have and all these things, but I'll do rough cut. Ashleigh does fine cut. I do color grade. She does sound design. It's a thing. But when we are brought onto other projects, I am usually her AC and I'm usually doing the lighting. So when we get hired out for camera team, it's much easier for us to get hired for me to get hired as opposed to going out for acting. And then it's like, well, we both want to be on set together. How do we do this? So like, I will AC for you. And she's like, you are going to AC for me and you're going to do lighting, which I then learn that language when I'm on set because I am moving into directing with Ashleigh and I need to know how to communicate those. So I've certainly learned a lot more about cameras and lighting, having us come on as the camera team. And then we also come on as edit team and we're like, bonus, you can actually just hire us for all of it. So we've done that quite a bit. As far as acting goes, I always prefer acting, but I also know I'm not just going to act for the sake of acting. I know when to wait. And a lot of times, also depending on the nature of the story, but like I will take a back seat and I will just do production side, which I'm more than happy to do because I really genuinely love it. So always acting, but I'm completely torn in half because I will be sitting there in front of the camera and I'm watching someone do something and I'm like, and I want to go up and fix it or whatever it is. I want to move a light and I can't. So it's certainly been a struggle. Yes, but I am waiting for acting before there's something that I can really, really get excited about before I step in and I'm like, okay, now you get to relinquish everything production side. And the only time that I really see that happening is on our projects because Ashleigh knows I can do both. And I trust her and the team that we bring on to do everything the way that we would want it. So I know that I ended up right in the middle of that, but it's the honest answer.
Absolutely. And it's amazing that you're tackling multiple different things. And I think it's just creating a story that resonates with the audience and also creating a story that is very impactful, right? And Ashleigh, given that Courtney has, been in front and behind the camera and a lot of the films you made together, you've done so much together. How was it like working with your best friend through thick and thin and through all of these different films together, whether it's like even post-production too, right? Because she's also a colorist. So yeah, tell us about that experience with Courtney.
As Court was alluding to a little bit earlier, when I mean, I don't know, we never really had a formal conversation that like, we're in this and we're together. But there was this one conversation, it sticks with me forever, in 2015 that I was like, I was going through it. And I was like, Courtney, you need to learn to edit. And we got into a fight and it was my fault. But I'm really thankful that we've learned to communicate. I've learned to communicate from then.
Me too.
Because it's been phenomenal. Just we've been able to sustain our lives together, whether it was like getting hired at the same restaurant at our survival jobs, serving tables, to making pizzas, to going to the gym together, and then getting hired to be extras from Central Casting together and getting hired. Like it really has been you adapting and learning a lot of skills to be able to have us both move along in our careers together. And that goes for everything. A lot of people are like, you guys are incredibly lucky to work with your best friend. And you are right. Yes. But it's taken a long time to get here. And there's a lot of, we talk all the time, every day, and are constantly developing our communication style because collaboration is very difficult, and then living your life with someone and doing all of these different things is very, very challenging. But we are able to maintain it because we both care so much about being the best version of ourselves for the other one and then elevating together instead of individually.
Yeah, working in film together has drastically improved our best friendship, not the other way around. I mean, it works the other way around as well, but film is important and this is what we're doing. And so then when we were on set, we were in director actor mode or whatever mode we were in at the time, but the film was the important thing. Mm-hmm. And that taught us to at least communicate enough that we weren't harboring any resentment. We were okay, smoothed it out later. And I think that has absolutely transferred into if we have any arguments now, that we're like, okay, I know that we do not fight for longer than an hour. It doesn't happen. But it's because of things like that, of just, we know we need to smooth it out just for a little bit. We'll come back to it. And that certainly helped. And also, when it comes, what Ashleigh was saying, instead of getting ahead, we very deliberately chose to be in this together and not say, okay, well, you work on your career individually, I'll work on mine individually, and then we'll come back together. Say that that's for good or bad. A lot of people have a lot of opinions, and I'm not going to say mine. I know what works for Ashleigh and I, and so does she. And I guess my opinion's right there. Yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. I really wouldn't. If I don't have her by my side, I don't want film, period. So she's given up so many opportunities to be in this, and I'm so thankful for her for that. And that just pushes me to make sure that I'm holding up my end, and I know vice versa. So I really wouldn't change it at all.
Wow. Gotta say, that's such an amazing story. And yes, communication is key, whether it's with your best friend and also your crew members, your production partners, etc., to make either anything successful, whether it's a film or anything like that. And for people who want to, keep in touch with your films, with your film festival runs, like where can people see like the movies you've been making? Because I know that you share it on Twitch, but is there any other place that people can go to watch your films?
Yeah, we can send all the links over, but we post, we've got like 70 of our films up on YouTube that you can check out for free. And we've got comedy, drama, psychological thriller, horror. We also upload a cover every week. I don't know why, but we just keep doing that because it's fine. But we also stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific on Twitch. So you can see a bunch of films, listen to music there. We also have Twitter and Instagram, every day on Twitter, X, whatever. We share one of our films that is on YouTube. So you can check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, all the places. You guys know the one.
There you go. Absolutely. And I do want to actually talk about your streaming career. But before we do, I just have one question regarding your music career, because given that Courtney is an amazing piano player and also a singer, Ashleigh, amazing singer, and also guitarist as well. So I guess, how did it start? I know that you guys are filmmakers, but what got you started in creating music together?
She was really rude, and we were in my Mustang convertible in 2013.
I hate how all these stories start.
And I was singing, and she turned the volume all the way down. It was to the point that like it was loud, and then she was like, "You can sing!" And so then we started harmonizing together on the same trip that we filmed our film Just Fine. We recorded these little beach sessions of us singing and playing guitar together on the beach. They went nowhere, thank God. And then in 2014, we started singing more together. And then in 2016 at Philips.
Yeah, all roads lead to film. That's our MO always. And when we were working at Philips in 2016, we were serving 5 days a week, open to close. So that's like 8 to 10 hour shift. And we're like, we need to raise money to make our feature film. And then we're like, okay, what are we going to do on these other 2 days? Because we're making enough, but not quite. And then they would always have a musical act play during certain hours between each shift. And we're like, wait, maybe we can do that, because we also had done a couple of songs on the inside of the restaurant, just like one little spot there. Ashleigh brought her guitar and we sang one song, I think. And we're like, well, they've already heard us. They know that we don't suck. So let's try to see if we can get one of those slots, because it's paid, which we love. We also got free food to do it. And we were like, we have like 4 or 5 songs. Now we need to fill 4 hours. Oh boy. And then we applied, and they're like, yeah, absolutely, you can do this. And so on the 2 days that we weren't serving tables, we were singing. And then we had to create this huge catalog of songs. Like, okay, what do we know? And we had this really thick binder of music that we would flip through. And then that's how we really started singing together. And thank God we did that, because once we moved out here and Chris Ash, bless him, got us on Twitch, he was like, you guys would be great at that. We started gaming, and we would do a song of the hour. And then our community was like, you guys should do music more, maybe. Gaming isn't it?
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
And so then we ended up doing music full time on Twitch, and we would serve tables like all hours of the night, and we would stream music from like midnight till 4 a.m, 5 days a week. And then people after a year and a half were like, you guys need original music. People would rate in and we'll play like a song request for them. They're like, you need original music. So we were like, okay. So we took a week off work and just sat and we wrote our first album. And then now we have like 30 original songs. Yep. It's alarming.
Wow.
It was film. It was film.
Yeah. But music funds film. And yeah, we enjoy playing live. We enjoy, like, it beefs up our communication with one another. And it's just really fun to make music.
Absolutely. And you guys are very talented in what you do and harmonize so well together. I remember just whenever I watch your music streams, I just feel so relaxed after such a long day. A very, very soothing tone and amazing voices that harmonize with each other. And yeah, when did it actually start? When did your streaming career start? I know that I started watching you guys after last year, actually, after the film festival. But when did everything begin?
Ashleigh's better with dates, but let me guess. July of 2018.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was a while ago.
Yeah. So you've been streaming for 5 years, and over the years, I guess your followers and your fans that you call Ohana, right? Have been growing ever since. Give a shout out to the Ohana and their support as well. Just talk a little bit about, I guess, their contributions to the stream as well.
So in the course of the 5 years, people have to understand that, like, in 2023, when you talk about live broadcasting community, it definitely has a different iteration now and a different culture behind it. But back in 18, there really wasn't any information out there about like how to run your stream. And so a lot of it was just trial and error. And we had our initial community was the billionaires, and there was a lot of toxic behavior that was taking place, and we didn't realize it. And when we realized it, we're like, no, we need to do a complete wash of the people that are problematic, even though they're staples of our community, if we're going to grow, which we were growing. And just as people, we didn't want to be walking on eggshells every stream. So we got rid of a lot of our mods. We used to have a pretty large mod team. Mods, for those of you that aren't familiar, they're like the bouncers of the broadcast, and they make sure that the order and peace is kept to the streamer's liking. And we went down to one mod and then slowly built it to 3 mods. And our community now is the Ohana, and it's built off a more family. You're welcome home is what we greet everyone that comes into our stream with. And it's very important that they feel supported and they feel seen and they feel heard, and that we experience events that are happening together instead of it being an echelon and tiers. Yes, we are still the streamer, but at the same time, the world is very heavy, and our job is to provide entertainment and a safe place for people to explore those feelings and emotions and have conversations with like-minded intellectuals, which our community is so smart. And we're able to be like having very philosophical commentary at 2 a.m. on a weekday. So shout out to y'all. Yes. They've supported us this year. We've explored art a lot, and they have supported us through our sub goals, through purchasing our art, showing up to our shows, funding us to be able to go on trips to New York, to go to museums and Broadway, and also funding us to be able to go to San Diego Filipino Film Festival and Austin Into the Stars, and also to just create more of our films. So it really has been a group of humans that saw what we're putting out into the world and are interested in just like exploring what it means to be a human being.
Yes.
People. They are.
Yes, and I gotta say, shout out to the Ohana for being so supportive, for Courtney and Ashleigh, providing even funds to go to these festivals, and amazing community, amazing group of people, and even meeting some of them in person in some of the live shows that I went to. Amazing group of people. Courtney, anything you want to say to the Ohana?
Love you guys so much. Thank you for making the past 5 years so amazing. And also something that's really important to note about them is we did take a turn when it came to talking about mental health. We felt that it's important for everybody's mental health to be respected, ours included. So we have certainly cut back on the amount of times we do talk about really, really, really serious topics, but that is also for a self-preservation. And like you were saying, Juan, that when you come into stream, you're going to feel relaxed, and that we try to keep that, unless we're screaming and we're in blimp suits or whatever. But we do try to keep that because the world is so heavy, and we do understand first and foremost, we are entertainers. And there are times to have those conversations, but we've certainly cut down a lot on all of that while still hopefully allowing everyone to feel like they are in a safe space. And Ohana, you guys give us that safe space every single time we show up to stream. You are so aware, like so many of you said the other day, we know what we're getting and what we're getting is we don't know what we're getting.
Yeah.
which I love. And I think that it keeps things from being monotonous, certainly for Ashleigh and I, because obviously we're in so many different areas. We cannot just do one thing and only do that thing all the time. So thank you for being gracious and giving us a platform to be able to do that and explore other things.
Absolutely. Yes. Amazing group of people. And I gotta say, yes, I definitely agree with both of you when you say that there's so many things happening in the world that are, either negative or, stuff like that. But it's so important to have like spaces like the Twitch community, your channel, to be able to provide a sense of peace and a sense of, serenity, or whatever words I can't come up with right now. But I'm incredibly lucky to have met both of you because, yeah, I gotta say you guys are so amazing, super talented at what you do, but also provide support and commentary as well. And I remember back in 2020 when the pandemic hit, or actually 2021, I had like a lot of films lined up as an editor. That's what I do freelance wise. And then it just all like shut down because of the pandemic. We couldn't go on set. Everyone was like using Zoom. Everyone was using Discord, but that's not the same, right? Even like doing self-tape auditions, not the same as in person for me, at least. So I decided to become a live streamer. And then over the years, at least starting out, it was super hard to get an audience. It was very fun at first, right? Like just hanging out with friends, playing some games, maybe doing cooking streams from time to time. It took a while to grow an audience, but I wanted to ask like you guys and your perspective for people who want to do this actually and fully commit full time that like you guys have done. What like words of hope or advice would you give to our listeners out there who want to become full-time Twitch streamers, especially those ones who don't know a place to start?
My biggest piece of advice is figure out what it is that you want to do and do that thing on purpose. Everyone talks about finding your niche, but what really worked for us is before we got started, I spent 3 weeks going into it was like a roulette of different streams and being like, okay, I like this about this streamer. I don't like this about this streamer, and taking inspiration and influence and making it our own. And it's like not being scared to put yourself out there and not being scared to take risks, because at the end of the day, your audiences can feel the authenticity behind your screen. And if you're being fake, it's going to be a lot harder for you to maintain that facade consistently. So finding something that you really enjoy doing and growing your community with those ideals and doing it on purpose, not really leaning towards any of the clickbaity things of having hot takes on main. Sure, that's a way to grow, but your community is also going to be a reflection of that toxicity, and you're going to forever be dealing with that. So figuring out your ideals, figuring out what you want to do and doing it on purpose, and having a plan.
Yes, I completely second and third that. Once you decide what you're doing and you're doing it on purpose, then you can kind of... Okay, let me explain what I'm saying first before I go and say that. So you have your streamers where your viewers are there to watch you game because you're an insanely great gamer. They're not there for you, technically. They're there to watch you game. And this goes for lots of different things. If streamers don't prefer to interact with chat, people are there to watch them do their skill set. If they're not there for that, like I would say the Ohana is there for us. Yes, it's great that music is there, but all of them are like, it's you guys and whatever. That's why they're willing to stick through whatever it is we want to do. So I think choosing, and exactly what Ashleigh was saying, choosing what you're doing that you enjoy, do it on purpose, is the most important thing. Because then you can't always determine if an audience is there for you or if they're there for what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Two completely different types of streamers, both are completely fine. But if you're hoping that someone's going to be there for you and you're doing something that you don't like, you're not going to get very far. Exactly what Ashleigh was saying. So it's a little bit more nuanced, and just start doing something you love, because once you do that, things will become difficult, as they do. I promise you right now. And then if you're not even doing something that you like, you're like, I don't understand why I've even started. The hardships just completely overtake everything because you didn't even like what you were doing in the first place. And you feel like you've completely wasted your time.
And like ultimately the reason that like piggybacking off you, why you have to find something that you love is the consistency. You are going to be 10 times more successful being consistent at something, anything really, than just doing something on the side. So if you're able to find a part of streaming that you really enjoy, art, we're going to be more like, we're going to grow better and we're going to have a happier quality of life by consistently doing art and growing our community accordingly, you know? And that's the thing I think a lot of people miss. They're just like, oh, well, Fortnite's really popular right now, I'm just going to load up Fortnite. Well, yes, it is very popular, but the mass majority of people are going to be watching like larger streamers and you're going to be streaming to no one. And then you're going to get really frustrated. So it really does take you to take that effort and take another step further and be like, okay, but is this something that I can viably see myself sticking with when things get hard?
Yes. And the people that are in your community are going to be based off of your attitude when you sit down to stream.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
So the Ohana knows when we are not doing well and we are the first people to say, hey guys, we're not doing well. So sorry.
They do.
But they need to know that. They need to know that we're just not, it's a little off. But if your whole career is you just being like, again, completely understand. Many times have we started stream like that and then we'd go to an overlay. We're like, we need to stop doing this. But they know that. Your audience will know that. And if you're negative all the time, you are going to attract negative people. Now, going back to the mental health conversation, and all of this, there is an other side to that. We understand that we're entertainers, but also we understand that there are things going on in the world and we do need to address them. When we say we're here for entertainment, it's not just, okay, well, I'm just going to put up pointless videos to make people lose their minds and lose all of their time. There is a balance on the other end to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with both of you completely. And just having that sense of purpose in streaming, not just streaming for the sake of streaming, but actually have a purpose as well. And I got to say, I'm learning so much from you, from this podcast, and also from every stream you guys do. Such an amazing group of people. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what are your hopes for this stream? Do you guys have any like certain goals? I know that you're pushing for a partner, or are you already a partner? And what are your hopes for the stream moving forward?
We are in a thing called Partner Plus push, which is if we receive a certain point spread, which is based on how many subscriptions that are paid to the channel, we get a 70-30 split as opposed to the 50-50 split. So we are partnered on Twitch and we are partnered on YouTube and Kick and stuff. But on Twitch, just to unlock that, we're about halfway through month 2 and we have to do month 3. So that's what we're aiming for, to get a higher sub split, because we split everything, and Twitch taking 50% and then we taking 50% and then having taxes is not great. So yeah, we're pushing towards that. As far as the future of this stream, I think that we're at a point that we're really comfortable with our community. We're very comfortable with where we're at, and we're going to explore some sponsorship opportunities, but we're going to really focus on the fact that we are live broadcasters and we've got 4-hour slots every week, and let's fill it with unique content. Let's elevate and give space and light to our friends who are also artists and creators, and just do stuff that's a little bit out of the box and not be scared for what that is going to bring, because ultimately we are all providing live content, and if we just keep putting out the same mundane stuff and we keep showing up uninspired, our audiences know, our Ohana knows. And after we have our live show in December, we're going to pivot going into the new year and figure out what exactly that is going to look like, or just, changing some stuff up.
Absolutely. Yes. And speaking of live shows, I don't think I see like a lot of streamers do this and actually invite people to go to in-person shows. I remember going to Muses and Melody twice, and that was such an amazing experience, having it streamed in multiple different cameras, but also having an audience, which is a much different experience than being in front of the computer, right? So I guess, Courtney, like what's it like working on these events? I know that event planning is so hard. I guess from my experience in the past, there's so many logistics to think about. And you have these other streamers who are performers that you're supporting as well. So talk a little bit about like the events you've been doing, such as the Muses and Melodies as well.
Yes. So our first show was Merry Twitchmas, and that was I guess we decided, all right, if we're doing our first show, we're going to do it up. I had been in a band for many years where we would play shows, but we never put them on. Also a very different style of music. And live performing is always so much fun. And then we decided, well, we don't think that we're ever going to get an opportunity to play live. Let's take our love of film and music, combine it, see what that looks like. And we did this show big, very big. And the Ohana was there to support, but it was so much because you're deciding, am I doing sponsorships? Am I going to be able to pay people? I think financials is always the biggest thing for anybody putting on a live show or a live event in general. It's like, can I make this worthwhile for someone else? It's very similar in film that way. If someone's going to invest in your film, you want to make sure there's a return on investment. No one really knows how to do that, let alone with live events, live music on Twitch, that you can kind of just write that off. It's not happening. They're not going to. So you're hoping that you find someone who wants to support you just for the good of music, and which is certainly its own problem set. And then with venues and things like that. And so once we had that show and it was a resounding success, we decided we wanted to do it again. But we also wanted to try something at a smaller scale and just have a venue that we could kind of just keep returning to that would allow us to show up. And thank goodness for the last call that has been that for us, which is why we were able to do 2 shows, do it at a smaller scale. Therefore, we weren't like, okay, well, now we just need to make sure we're only booking people who can sell tickets. And because you don't want to do that. One, you never know if someone's going to sell tickets or not. It's just the name of the game. And we wanted a show with a lot less stakes to it, because we weren't putting out nearly as much financial means to make the show happen. Mm-hmm. And the last Muses and Melodies was my favorite show I've ever played. It was so amazing. And it's always amazing to then play music with Ashleigh and do it live. It is very different playing right here than it is live. And that comes with its own complications. But I feel like we just get stronger as event planners over the years. And now that we have Christmas in LA coming up on December 10th, and all of our mods are flying in, and we're so excited to have them there. And it's just a beautiful send off for moving into the new year and knowing that we are pivoting. So it's been stressful, but I've learned so much of who we are, and what we wear has become very important when we're playing shows. But like that's always a time for Ashleigh and I to dress up and have fun and just hang out with really, really amazing people, which is the most important thing, because we don't want everybody stuck behind a computer. If it weren't for music and film, we wouldn't even have social media. And it's a completely different thing to be in person and sharing a space with other human beings.
It's definitely much different experience. And I gotta agree with you, Courtney. Muses and Melodies was also one of the best shows I've ever been to. Just hanging out with Ed and also other streamers that were also there. Just having a good time, right? Just having a good time. But I know that a lot of effort goes into these events. So thank you so much for doing these, and I'm incredibly excited for the show that's coming up on December. So I'm super excited to be there. And Ashleigh, where can people, or how can people support the stream? You said that you're pushing for Partner Plus, but how can you achieve that? How can people support you?
Yeah, so Partner Plus is paid. It's a subscription to our channel. There's 3 different tiers: $5, $10, and $25. So if you want to support our stream, you're more than welcome to. We also have a Patreon that you can support and get behind the scenes look at our films and our music and our art. You also get the first look and the first buy of our art pieces, which go very quickly, and we're very blessed to be in this position. But if you want to support our Twitch stream, you're more than welcome to go to twitch.tv/CA_in_LA. A lot of underscores. But yeah, that's honestly tuning in and adding to the conversation and just introducing yourself and making yourself a part of the Ohana is a really good place, because if you like stimulating conversation and randomness and mania and harmonies and film and us and art, it's a good place to be, I think, to unwind late at night.
The Ohana talks to each other when Ashleigh and I are doing something else. So it's not just everyone talking with us, it's everyone talking with each other, which is really important. So I feel like hopefully if you guys do stop in, you'll feel right at home.
Yeah, it's awesome. And there's a lot of Filipinos in our chat, and so we'll get talking about like Filipino food and Filipino culture and like norms and what our experiences have been. So it's really awesome that you just get so many different viewpoints from so many different people from so many different walks of life that are willing to share that. And how cool. We learn something new about someone, everyone, every stream. It's awesome.
Yes, and that's what I love so much about the stream is it's not one dimensional. It's multiple things happening at once. The chat vibing with each other, chat vibing with you, learning so much from each other, and also being variety streamers, doing music, art, film, etc. There's so many things you guys do. And guys, please support CA_in_LA. Amazing people, amazing streamers. It looks like we're running out of time, but I do have a couple questions left. So as you may know, the Howl is also about giving advice to others. You've already given advice to the streamers who want to start, but let's do the same thing with filmmakers who want to start creating stories and bringing those to life. Like, even though they don't know a place to start, maybe they don't have, like, for example, a film school they have in mind, or maybe don't have the funds to go to film school and rely on like online and technology. What words of advice would you give to those aspiring filmmakers who want to start doing it?
I think getting involved in your local community, no matter where you are, there is film communities, and it might take a little bit more work depending on where you're from, but you can definitely show up to local film festivals and support those. And again, it's going to take some work, but you can go and you can introduce yourself to the filmmakers that you really vibed with and start a collective. You have access to so much information at your fingertips now more than ever. So use that. Go watch YouTube videos, watch films, figure out what your voice is and what stories you want to tell, and find the community that's going to help tell those stories and help them tell their stories as well. We are filmmakers and collaborators and a community first and foremost. So find your tribe, find the people that are telling stories that have to be told because they have to be told, and it's going to be low budget, no budget. You're going to be eating a lot of Little Caesars pizza, and it's going to be exhausting, and you can find your group of people. You just have to put yourself out there. And I also feel like so conflicted with the just go make a film, just like use your iPhone. It's not like that. It's not that simple of just taking your iPhone. I think you can learn so much more from going to a film festival and being like, okay, these are the type of completed films that make it onto this caliber, and really like digest what it means. Like, what's the life cycle of a film? What is the life cycle of a short film? What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? Like, the more that you inform yourself and get entrenched, like, one, you do such a great job of it, you're involved in so many communities, and you elevate everyone that you are around, and you really, really have this magical way of bringing out people's stories and intentions and collaborations and stuff. So kudos to you. You just be like one.
I agree.
But like, no, seriously, like, go support your friends, go to their film festivals. Like, don't view each other as competition. We all can learn something from each other. Like, no matter what the project is, no matter who the person is, you don't have to see eye to eye with them, but like, collaborate. Like, this is a community and collaborative based art form. You can't do this alone.
I second all of that. And I would just say, get on people's sets. People always need people, and you're going to learn so much about the type of project you want to tell, what you're going to allow on your set and what you're not, by being on 1,000 of other sets. And I think that's very important. People are always looking for people. Again, like Ashleigh said, a lot of them will be low budget, not paid, but when you're there to learn, you're there to learn. And I know a ton of filmmakers that just need people to help out in whatever way. And that's something in Los Angeles that's incredibly hard to find, is just people who want to show up and help. But yeah, before you go and tell your own, you need to figure out what not to do on a set, or what you deem unacceptable, and you'll learn really quick by getting on as many sets as you can. So that would be my advice.
Yes, as many as you can. I gotta say, thank you so much, Ashleigh, also for the kind words. And I think it's also about collaboration, networking with each other, and also supporting each other. And I am very appreciative of both of you supporting my film, and vice versa. I really love supporting talented people, really amazing, talented people like you, just shine. That's such an amazing feeling, and my heart is full. So thank you for that. And speaking of thanking people, it's actually Thanksgiving weekend. And it's actually sort of my final question I wanted to ask both of you, since it's the Thanksgiving weekend, is what are maybe not one thing, but some of the things you're grateful for this year, or I guess any years?
I am eternally grateful that I found a human in this world that sees things similarly to me, but isn't scared to check me, and also is the most inspiring and beautiful creative I've ever seen. So I'm really thankful for you and all of the adventures that we get to go on together. And it's not easy to make a decision to like live your life with someone, and we've just kind of done it. And it's been amazing in this year, like us really refining down our voices and stuff. I feel like we're setting ourselves up from healing to pivot and like just be so much bigger than we've been before. So I'm so eternally grateful for you and all of the pivots and just being down for the trenches.
Oh, I live in those. I live and breathe. No, I'm incredibly thankful for you too. You have spearheaded all of our films. We would not be where we are if it weren't for you, without having such a strong vision and taking a lot of risks, knowing full well that that is going to affect two people, not just you. And we've talked about this as well, and the stress that brings on of maybe I'm steering the ship in the wrong direction. And thank you for being patient with me as I figure out what that is, as far as where my voice is going and how I can help steer the ship as well. And yeah, just eternally thankful for you and everything that you've done for us and all the improvement you've done on yourself to be better for us. And always thinking about us and the healing process has been super, super amazing. And I'm also, and I know Ashleigh is as well, just eternally thankful for the Ohana, because waking up every day and knowing that we get to do art, music, and film with our lives, all three of them simultaneously with our lives, living in Los Angeles of all places, is the most amazing thing that I could have ever. Younger me is so happy. Absolutely. She's so excited. She's like, you go. I'm dead inside a lot of the time, but so thankful, because I wouldn't want to wake up and do anything else with anyone else. So, and the Ohana gives us the opportunity to do all three of those things
every day. Yeah.
Every day.
Huge shout out to the Ohana, and huge shout out to all of our collaborators that have believed in us and support all of the madness that we go on and jump on our sets, and just all of the people over the course of my career, from music to art to film, that have believed in me and given me a chance and opportunity and elevated me, because it does not happen often. And I'm just eternally grateful. And when I can give it back, I will. Promise, I swear.
You guys just made my night. That was so amazing. Amazing best friends and people. I'm incredibly thankful for you for being in this podcast, and also for your friendship as well. And also, amplifying underrepresented voices as well, and also creating the stories that you're telling. And congratulations to everything that you do, and also your films, your music, the Ohana, the fact that you're doing so many things, especially the live shows. Wow, incredible. I don't know how you guys do it, but you inspire me so much in every stream that you do, and I'm always very excited to be there. Any final wrap up, as we wrap up, any final thoughts you want to share with our audience?
I just would also say I'm very grateful to you, Juan, for bringing us on this podcast. This has been amazing. Please, everybody who listens, please go check out Juan's films. You don't talk about yourself enough. I know that you're interviewing us, but still. And thank you for giving us the opportunity, and thank you for putting your art into the world. It's amazing. And as always, if there's any way that we can support you further, please let us know. And just thank you for being interested in our story. And thank you everybody who has listened, who's maybe heard it before or hasn't. I hope that you took something small from it, whether it's creating your own films or any of that. I hope that this means something to somebody out there.
I also want to piggyback. Juan, thank you so much for having us. Thank you for making this podcast happen and for asking people to share their stories, because that's amazing. We all do this thing very alone. And thanks for amplifying these voices, and amplify your voice more. Please go support Juan. My last thing is, as times are so dark, please don't forget to stay curious. Do not lead with judgment. Stay curious and stay inspired. Don't allow yourself to be nailed down by all of the doom and gloom. You have the power to change the algorithm that is on your feeds by surrounding yourself and your brain with positivity and good words, and not just toxic positivity. But there's so many artists that are sharing beautiful things on Instagram and Twitter and all of that jazz. You don't have to be bogged down by all of the bad stuff. And I'm not saying like live in your own little world, but you can be inspired on your feed by artists. Stay curious, please. We need you.
Stay curious. We need you. Thank you so much for that. And lastly, I know you mentioned it briefly in the podcast earlier, but where can people find you again, just for the audience to have a reminder? Where can people find you? And also, how can they support your craft? Patreon, Twitch, etc.
Yeah, we'll definitely throw links your way if that's cool. But we have a Patreon for CA in LA. It is difficult because we are CA in LA and Misash Productions all in one, and they all feed the same beast, but they're all different entities. So we do have our twitch.tv/CA_in_LA that you can tune in for free on Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays for hours at a time, where there's mania happening. So you could watch for free. That supports us. You could share when we're live. That supports us. You could subscribe to us. That supports us. You can watch our YouTube videos, listen to our music on Spotify, Patreon, Instagram, Twitter. Like, honestly, there's plenty of ways to check out our stuff if you're interested.
Yes.
Absolutely. And Courtney, you mentioned before that there's a live show that's upcoming for CA_in_LA. So talk a little bit about that. That's coming up in December.
Yay. Okay, December 10th, we have a really amazing show at Brick Room LA. We're playing with incredible artists. I will name them really quick. If you guys don't know them, please check them out. It's Kisos, the Black Cherries, which is composed of Sashi Boom and Ellie Fear. Fantastic Plastics. We are playing, obviously, and then it's hosted by It's Frisk and Katie Bentz. It is going to be an amazing show. A lot of live music. It's not going to be super heavy, but we also are celebrating the holidays. We have some mocktails. We're going to have a red carpet. Lego is going to be there to do a live interactive. So each individual person who comes in can place a piece. And by the end, we're going to have this little art collab piece, which is going to be super fun. And there are going to be a ton of amazing people there. And we would love to have you if you are going to be in Los Angeles at that time.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be there too. I'm so excited. And final, where can people follow you, social media, etc.?
Yeah, it's going to be Twitch is our main source, but if you want to get behind the scenes, you can check out our Twitter, you can check out our Instagram, you can check out our Patreon and our YouTube, and I'll send all of those links over because it's just easier to click.
I know.
Right. And then, so I'll send all of that over. And thank you so much for continuing to elevate creatives like ourselves and for continuing to ask people to share their stories, Juan. This is really cool.
Yeah. And we also do... We'll post content on one account and then spam it to all the other ones. So if you're like, oh, missed one, there's an easy funnel to go to another one because we do tag all of us in all of it and share it everywhere.
Like every creative, we have a link tree. So I could just send that over and that has drop down. There's ticket sales up there. And if you guys are listening and you want tickets, we'll send the ticket link out. And then until Monday, I know it's going up Monday, 24, 25, 26, 27th, until the 27th, there's a $5 off ticket link. So you can get $5 off. And who doesn't love a coupon?
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. And all of those links will be in the description as well. I'll get it from you, Ashleigh, later. And I got to say, this has been such an amazing episode and my heart is incredibly full. You guys made my night and I'm super grateful to have you in this podcast and for taking the time to share your story as well as your films, as well as your music and also streaming career. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So much.
We really appreciate you.
Yes.